Alright, everybody, here we go. Round one of a nice situation tomorrow night into Tuesday for a lot of the area. LiveWeatherBlogsHere.com. Rob Garino with you here, looking at what's going on here. You've got a lot of cold air. This is pushing right through in this direction. And then you got the moisture down south, which is going to come up in this fashion right through here. And combining the cold air and the moisture will give us an ice to rain to possibly snow event, depending on the timing of a few things. So things are in place. This is what we look for: cold polar air. We look for moisture down south. So yes, we are going to get the storm. It's a 100% chance of that as we go into Monday night through Wednesday morning. Now, we're going to take a look at the GFS first. We're going to use the GFS and the NAM for our model analysis on this storm because we're within 48 hours. And there's the low. There's that cold air. See that little kink right there? That's the cold air. It's called cold air damming that's pushing in. See those little black lines into the area? But the problem is this storm sits very close to the coast and that high is moving out. Now, when we talk about the NAO block, if this was the negative NAO that we've seen the last few storms, it would be sitting back here and it would slow this down to a screeching halt and allow that cold air to continually pour into the system. It's not. There's no block, so this quickly moves out. In comes the warmer, wetter air, and it wins out with rain in the end for some. And there you go. You see the moisture starting. You see that black line? That's an 850. That's what the temperatures are at 5,000 feet roughly, and you see that we're quickly zipping up above freezing through most of the Philadelphia metro area. New York still sitting in some ice and snow. This would be Tuesday morning at around rush hour, and that's what we look like. Now, as we move this forward, this is at 48 hours, and we get a little closer in, right at 54. You see the storm hugging the coast. Again, there's a little bit of the cold air, but most of that cold air gets jammed back west of the major cities. Look at the 540 snow line way up in New England, and if we look down south here, this is through around lunchtime on Tuesday. You see a lot of the moisture in the area, but there's that 850 temperature all the way up into Syracuse in southern New England. So yes, this will change over to frozen or wet precipitation depending on your topography at the lower levels. And then what we do here is at 60 hours, simply put the storm up here in New England. You see even a lot of inland places in New England are going to get a mixed precipitation of weather because both the temperature at 5,000 feet and the snow line are well inland, and then we get this storm system to move out. Now, what may happen on the back end here is a little bit of moisture being hung back in this system on the GFS, and you can see it here where the 32 line and the snow line, that's the snow line. It certainly catches up to us with snow, but the temperatures a little lower down are suspect. So this could be freezing rain or even a little snow on the back end. And I don't really want to get into that right now because I think we've got to get through the first half before we get to the back end there. Now, so this is a 3-layer cake, and some will see just the icing and frosting, a little snow and ice, and then melt it all away. Some will get the frosting, ice. The middle layer of the cake is a little bit of rain, then back to the snow, Lehigh Valley, and that's your 3 layers and so forth. We'll talk more about that on the next block. Now, this is the NAM, which I do like the thinking on this model. It's nice and micrometeorology, I like to call it. As we take a look here at 9 o'clock in the morning, Z time, which would be 4 a.m. East Coast time. There's your 32-degree line. This is about 6 feet off the ground, the surface temperature. Here is the precipitation. And you can see it's getting in right around the Philly area, around 4 o'clock, between midnight and 4. It could be a couple hours earlier, but I still think around midnight is the time we get this going into Tuesday morning. And we start with a little bit of snow because you've got layers at the surface and down below, all below freezing. And then quickly here you'll see, as we go into the next slot, how quick we're going to move this storm system along. There it goes, right there. Now, there's your 32 line at the surface. So we do have a problem with some freezing rain, light freezing rain through rush hour. This is at about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning on rush hour Tuesday morning. And then as you look down, you can see the precip is not heavy. I mean, you're talking about 1/10 of an inch here in the purple, less than 1/10 of an inch in the blue, and about 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch. So we expect some coating of ice here in the morning because the temperatures aloft are now supporting ice, not snow. And again, this is as we head into the afternoon hours. This would be actually around 10 o'clock in the morning. There's your precip confined mainly east and south of New Jersey, of Philadelphia. There's your precip. There's your 32 line struggling through western Chester, upper Montgomery, upper Bucks into Hunterdon and the Trenton area, Mercer County, probably Hunterdon, and then into the New Jersey suburbs. So this is where the problem remains of a freezing rain situation in this area, and then changing over to rain down here at around 10 or 11 in the morning on Tuesday. This is why I think this zone in here, very good chance of the schools closing because of this prolonged period of ice. It's not a lot of ice, but schools are very cautious with ice versus snow to close very quickly. That's why I think this is a snow day almost for sure in some of these areas. Now, what we do with this is as we move along past this slot, is we take it up past 48, and then we move it up to here, and then at 54 hours, this is in the afternoon on Tuesday. You see that everybody really slotting up above freezing down at the surface. I do think in here you're going to see mainly rain. It's not heavy. It is light for the most part. You might have some pockets of freezing rain, but we do change over to period of rain for just about everybody. Even New York City down through Philly is sitting in the rain slot through the afternoon on Tuesday. Now, as we move this again a little further along, and we take this next slot of moisture up right in here, this would be later in the afternoon on Tuesday. You see that slug of moisture, but everybody's still above freezing easily in most areas, so that stays as rain, and you slot it down there, and you can see the moisture along the coast. And then there's that little low that's trying to develop a wind field that's trying to get going after the first storm, develop a little secondary storm, but it really doesn't quite get going. And then what we do around 72 hours is this is on Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, still not showing the cold air getting in. We're still sitting at around 32 or so, 34. But this will get interesting because some cold air may try to slot in behind this. Now you see that the winds are trying to get in here, and they may not get in because of the complexity of the storm, but there is a little bit of cold air trying to get in on this back end, and you can see the little bit of a moisture slot at 72, and then you go there, and then you go here, and then there's another little shot of warm air. So it's a little complex on the back end with this system, but for the most part we will watch ice and a little snow on the front end, and then rain for everybody by Tuesday afternoon. This is what we talk about on the models, and when you want to get a little closer in, I know this is a long blog, but this is much more detailed than I normally do. There's the 9 slot. This is for Philadelphia going into rush hour, 31 at the surface. You have 1/10 of an inch of rain, 541, which means not going to be snow in Philly, and then you scroll down, and this is the number you look for. That's where the snow would form, but this is Celsius above freezing. See how we stay above all the way through until the end, and then at the end the precip is simply gone. So ice to rain in Philadelphia. If you want to take a look at the Lehigh Valley, where the difference is, this is where the precip starts at 25 degrees, 539, you got snow a little bit, and then you move through 32 degrees here, and then you're at 542, so you're looking basically at an ice situation, 1/10 of an inch of ice. You kind of hang around freezing in the Lehigh Valley, and then you basically go back to a little bit of rain, and then a little bit of snow maybe on the back end, or rain. It's going to be a tough call on the back end here, as these temperatures at about 5,000 feet hover above freezing most of the way, which means not a lot of snow with this system. We'll have an update a little bit later on your county from basically Boston down through Washington. I'm meteorologist Rob Guarino, liveweatherblogs.com.